what is BeatStars doing? If you have been online and you've been following the BeatStars profile, you can kind of see that they put up a couple of videos. One was about BeatStars publishing and the other was about AI, which was basically just a huge advertisement for Lemonade. I wanted to talk a little specifically about the publishing panel. They had this whole panel on BeatStars publishing. So my first issue with this panel, first of all, Tantu is literally like levitating. Why did he have to be that high? The first question that this panel starts out with is, what is publishing? Why do you need publishing?
What is music publishing and why is it so critical?
So the way I see it, it's a revenue stream that was created by the music industry a long time ago for various reasons, to protect the copyright owners of art like music, and it's a revenue stream that's inherently important for every musician. I would say, whether you're a producer, a singer, if you just do ghostwriting, if you sell beats online, it's something that's you gotta understand how it works, because if you make a living through music, there will be a moment where it will become very important to you.
What?
So the earlier you know about it, the better.
Absolutely. Kyle?
I would always say a lot of people always focus on the master recording, but the composition and the publishing is more important, because the composition, if you think about science, composition is the DNA of music, right? So everything as it's right? And that's where music publishing comes in, right? Like a doctor or a surgeon, to find that DNA, identify that DNA to help you collect that music publishing.
BeatStars refuses to explain what publishing is. They do everything that they can to obfuscate exactly what publishing means and what you're signing away. The actual explanation for publishing didn't start to come until almost the end of all of it, where the legal counsel, I think it was like legal counsel or something, actually started to describe the different publishing deals. He didn't go over all of them, but he at least got more in depth than the very first description that they gave us of what publishing was.
There's typically two types of publishing deals. I think we need to cover this super quick. A pub admin deal, that means, hey, we collect a percentage or a fee, you own everything. And then you have what's called a co-pub deal, right? They collect probably half, right? And they own half, right? A company will own half. BeatStars, we do admin deals typically. So that's the main thing to look out for a lot of times as a creator getting started, right? You want to try to get yourself into an admin deal where you pay somebody a fee to collect for you globally, but you still own and maintain that DNA.
I have a few problems with BeatStars Publishing because they partnered up with Sony Publishing or Sony ATV in order to bring this whole partnership to life. Partnering with Sony is already pretty problematic. Sony was a label. Labels are notorious for ripping off artists. Since a lot of artists went independent and they tried to go their own way because they were sick of being ripped off by labels, believe me, these big corporations are going to continue to get their money. They will do that through independent artists.
The last major acquisition I want to talk about comes from 2022 with purchasing the AWOL distributor from Cobalt Music Group for $430 million. This is very different from the past acquisitions I have mentioned, as AWOL is actually a service for independent artists.
BeatStars, who consistently says that they're all about the underdog, for the underdog, partnering with Sony was a really bad way to show us that that was what they were looking to do. Like I said in the BeatStars expose video, I believe that eventually Sony is going to acquire BeatStars. I don't know that for a fact, and that is a speculation, but I do believe that that's the way that this is going. BeatStars has consistently been trying to raise valuations, and you usually see that before an acquisition. The only way to show a company that you're worth acquiring is to raise your valuations, especially if you start to lean toward that company's wishes. A big thing that you can see that this panel was bringing up was the selling of your catalog. This is problematic because this is something that, to my knowledge, wasn't brought up by BeatStars until their partnership with Sony.
If someone's willing to pay me $10 million for my catalog of work and I don't have shit, and I can take, you know what I mean? And I can take that 10 mil to create a whole new catalog of work, right? And bet on myself, reinvest in myself, then it might be a good idea, right? It's, it's kind of like a 10-year advance, right? So, just depends on where you're at. If you're loaded and you're chilling and you don't really need the $10 million, maybe, you can hold out, maybe you can hold out. It just really depends on everyone's situation.
Right. Tanta, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I agree with the fact that it's just different for every situation. And it's also, It very much so depends on your patience, I guess, as well, like, because these people investing in those catalogs, they know, okay, I will make a return on this investment 15 or 20 years from now. Even not within that time, we'll make it only my kids can see a return of that investment.
Can I add to that really
Of
quick?
course.
Just to be clear on what we're saying, if your catalog is making $1 million, let's say your catalog is making $3 million a year, right? Someone will approach you and say, hey, I'll give you $30 million for it, right? So to both of their point, it's just something that like to always think about. You don't have to do it, or you could. It makes sense to you.
And if you know anything about Sony music, a big reason that Sony is so huge in the music industry is because of the acquisition of these individual catalogs.
United Kingdom Television Company, Associated Television, also known as ATV, was buying up catalogs left and right, acquiring different publishing companies, leading them to owning the rights for the legendary Beatles group by 1969. ATV owning that legendary catalog would play a pivotal role in the creation of Sony. Decades later, in 1985, Michael Jackson would have the opportunity to bid and buy all of ATV, including the Beatles catalog, for $47.5 million. 10 years after Michael Jackson bought the ATV catalog, he would strike a deal with Sony, selling 50% of the catalog for $95 million, leading to the creation of the Sony ATV publishing company.
The fact that BeatStars is trying to plant that seed that maybe you should sell your catalog is exactly what Sony would want them to do. So the way that they market publishing is like, this is the only way to go and collect all your royalties. What they don't tell you, you are the owner of your track. When you release your track, you have a copyright on it. It's kind of a digital copyright. As far as this copyright being held up in the court of law, you would need to have a registered copyright. Just owning 100% of your song is something that happens automatically unless there's something big that you want to challenge. In layman's terms, let's say that you and this artist upload your music to DistroKid. You are receiving all of your royalties, mechanical royalties. There are some fees that you have to pay. Obviously, there's a fee that you have to pay to use DistroKid. It's very, very low. But for the most part, you're receiving all of your royalties minus like tilapia fees and things like that. BeatStars Publishing actually takes 20% of those mechanicals that you already owned. And remember, you own 100% of your publishing in the creation of your track. You and this artist, depending on splits, depending on contracts, depending on the way that you set it up, publishing is a very complicated topic. And there's so many different publishing deals. There's admin pub, there's sub pub. You can even do single song. There's a million different things that a publisher can do. There's a million different contracts that you can sign with a publisher. So my issue is that BeatStars is trying its hardest to send you over to BeatStars Publishing, which might as well just be Sony Publishing. Say you and this artist, you release this song, it blows up on TikTok. At that point, you most likely would have publishers reaching out. Publishers will actually give you a cash advance. So say like the publisher wants to give you $5,000 and that's your advance. And that's a recoupable expense. So until the publisher makes that money back, you won't actually receive any of these performance royalties until these recoupable costs have been covered. This is in advance, and it's very useful. To my knowledge, BeatStars Publishing doesn't offer this. Another job of the publisher is they have connections that you don't have. They have outlets that you don't have. They'll be almost submitting or pitching your song to these outlets. So say Sony Pictures needs a soundtrack for a specific movie that they're releasing. In that case, it might actually work in your favor if you're with BeatStars Publishing because say Sony actually reaches out to you. Do they offer opportunities that you wouldn't necessarily be able to find if you owned 100% of your publishing? Of course. But the thing is, the chances of this are so small. I like to maintain control of as many things as I can maintain control of. Am I rich? Of course not. But my music is my music. I want to get all of my mechanical royalties. I want to get all of my performance royalties. And my personal decision is to retain ownership of 100% of all of my tracks. I don't want to share it unless I'm getting some kind of an advance that makes it worth it to share. Full disclosure, I do not use BeatStars Publishing. I do have information on the way that BeatStars Publishing works. All of my sources are going to be in the description, so feel free to kind of look over these materials as you go. BeatStars is literally offering you one option, and this option makes BeatStars money. Doesn't make you money, it makes BeatStars money. And they're like, now, free BeatStars publishing. It better be free. You're taking my royalties. You're making me split with you. Just be aware that there are multiple different ways to do this. And if your song blows up, you do not have to have a publisher yet. You are your own publisher. So if your song blows up, you already own 100% of your publishing. You already own 100% of your copyright. You already own 100% of the underlying composition. When you release your song, you own 100% of everything. So if your song blows up on TikTok or YouTube or wherever it blows up, all of those royalties are yours. You can always contact an attorney that will help you collect on all of your royalties and will show you the proper outlets to take. If you're more of like a researcher, you can figure out the proper outlets to take by yourself. You do not need to be with BeatStars Publishing. You don't. There's going to be sources in the description that really break down exactly how music publishing works and exactly what your options are. But do not believe that you have to do this. You do not have to do this. Even though it comes free with the pro page subscription on BeatStars, you still don't have to do it. Remember, you have the right to keep 100% of your song. It's the questions and answers section of this panel. You can almost see everybody bracing for impact. The first couple questions were fine. They were answered fine. I didn't really see too much of a problem. But then the guy, he stands up and asks, well, how do I get exposure on BeatStars? Wow. Does this question get bounced all the way up to Tantu in the fucking Sky Lobby?
Yes.
So whenever you start producing, you most of the time don't have a lot of money uploading some experience, so you just start making beats. But the concurrence, or say competence, competition on BeatStars or YouTube for any platform is immense. How will you make your beats stand out and make sure that you get discovered? Because even we're talking about people trying to take advantage of the royalty deals and stuff.
Right.
Even to get discovered by someone like them is very, very hard. So how do we make it?
I think I'm gonna have Tantu and Abe.
I think actually like the demo drop section. I don't know if you have time to stick around, but I think we will be covering that a lot actually.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna listen to beats and gonna critique them like, okay, what could be better in this? How could this stand out more? So if you have time to stick around.
But I think also, Abe, I'd like you to answer about this. Is something you're super passionate about. Is how does this beat stand out amongst the millions of beats on BeatStars?
Well, the thing is, I'm not a producer, right? I'm a songwriter. So I think Tantu's has a better insight on how you should approach making beats, probably. But in terms of marketing them and, finding an audience for them, it's just like every other business in the world. You gotta create that menu. That menu's gotta have a whole large consumer base that's wanting that kind of music. So, on BeatStars, like some of the top keywords, for example, are Drake type beat or sad beat or drill or trap, right? So it's understanding what the demand is first, but also making music that's true to you, though, because there's so many genres are doing so well on BeatStars. It's not just those tags. There's thousands of them, generating $60 million a year.
Just have good music. Make music for your 14-year-old self. No, that is not how you get exposure on BeatStars. She actually worded the question very well. Out of millions of tracks, how do you stand out? I'll tell you right now, it's not having a good track. The same exact producers have been in the top tracks for ages because it's a sales-based algorithm. So it's a snowball effect. If you're not selling, you have virtually no shot. If somebody comes across your track because you've really taken advantage of the metadata and stuff like that, and then you make a sale that way, and then you'll start to slowly, especially if you can build up momentum and keep selling on that one beat, then you'll slowly start to make your way up. But the problem is, now there's more people on BeatStars than ever. Back when a lot of these producers that are always at the top got on BeatStars, there just weren't many people there. And I'm so sick of seeing Tantu, so sick of seeing Levi Beats. For a platform that says that it's out for the underdog, they do not pay attention to smaller producers at all. It's the same freaking Abe is always seated alongside the same freaking producers. And I'm sorry, But if every single producer that has sold less than 5 beats left the platform, you wouldn't have a platform because I'm sorry, these golden children that you have, they are not enough to sustain what you're trying to do. So you should really start to talk to us and not keep talking to them. Also, I don't know if they did it. They probably wouldn't put it as a video on YouTube just because I'm sure it was a shit show. But they need to have a question and answer panel with us, all of us, not just the people that made it to the panel that day, because the last guy literally asked a question that had nothing to do with anything and was focused on he just wants to put the gear he used. Like, you know how like when you're choosing the instruments that you used, he's like, I want to be able to put in that I used my Akai Mini, which I think totally wasted question. The last question was just a lemonade guy pushing lemonade. You need to stop leaving us out of the room, I'm telling you. With platforms like Soundy coming up, and believe me, I haven't heard a bad thing about Soundy yet. You really, this monopoly that you feel like you have in this space, your partnership with Sony is really hurting that. One last concerning thing that I wanted to talk about was at one point Abe says, like, aside from beat leasing is BeatStars. And I'm all for evolution. And I know that things can't stay the same forever. But what are you talking about? This is all coming from Sony, not you. I noticed that nobody on YouTube broke down this panel yet, and I thought that it would be something that I could do. Like I said, all of the sources in my description will explain exactly what music publishing is, what your best options are, not what BeatStars' best money-making options are, but what your best options are. And they have a lot of useful videos when it comes to just the business of music.
Jude, that's 5.